Hi, my name is Orestis, and I'm going to present you the study titled Upvotes, Downvotes, No Votes, Understanding the Relationship Between Reaction Mechanisms and the Political Discourse on Reddit. That study was co-authored by Severin, Engelmann, Amy Winecoff, and me. A bit background related to the study. We know that philosophers and political theorists have developed for hundreds of years conceptions about how individuals should discuss and perform political discourse. Some of these theories aim to improve the democratic functions, but also there have been developed theories about modes of discourse who actually deteriorate the democracy. At the same time, there has been a lot of questions about how social media impact democracy, with many studies showing that platforms might have negative effects on the users and the society in general. For example, it has been stated that they increase polarization or that social media can make users interact in a more aggressive way. By using Reddit as a case study, the scope of this paper is to try to bridge these two perspectives. On the one hand, the study investigates to what extent specific political theories, that is, deliberative, civic, and demagogic discourse, are able to describe users' political discussions. But also, on the other hand, whether different reaction mechanisms present on Reddit, that is, upvotes, downvotes, or both, are associated with the prevalence of these political theories. We chose Reddit as a case study for following reasons. First, Reddit has a public open API from which we could extract historical data about user interactions. Second, Reddit contains different sub-communities who discuss politically. Third, Reddit gave the options to moderators up to 2018 to decide which reaction mechanisms are going to be visible to users when using the default Reddit interface. These reactions mechanisms can be upvotes or downvotes. Given these three reasons, we have the opportunity to create a quasi-experimental research design and investigate first to what extent political theories appear in user discussions, a question that we answer by combining text classification and confirmatory factor analysis, and second, to see how changes in reaction mechanisms in different communities are associated to changes in the manifestation of different types of political discourse, a question that we answer by mixed effect modeling. As already mentioned, we are investigating three distinct political theories. The first theory is deliberative discourse, which in a simplified manner is constituted by the give and take of non-coercive and reasoned arguments. Civic discourse represents how citizens discuss in order to improve the conditions for them and others and shape the future of their communities. In contrast, demagogic discourse is a polarizing discourse that promises stability, certainty, and escape from responsibilities by making in and out group identity salient while using unsupported arguments. To measure the prevalence of these three theories in user comments, we created a taxonomy of rhetorical elements that should appear in them according to political theorists. For example, in deliberative discourse, discussants will use fact-related and structured arguments while avoid ungrounded ones. Similarly, civic discourse would contain rhetorical elements that make situational calls for action, but also empathy and reciprocity. In contrast, demagogic discourse contains elements such as we versus them rhetoric and emotional language. To map user comments to the rhetorical elements we developed, we labeled 4,500 user comments on Reddit. For each class of rhetorical elements, we coded at least 300 comments. We then trained a large language model in the multi-label classification task. Given adequate accuracy of our model, we then predicted the prevalence of these rhetorical elements on the rest of the comments corpus. Given that we have mapped rhetorical elements to user comments, we can now answer our first research question. That is, to what extent can essential rhetoric components of deliberative, civic, and demagogic discourse describe users' political discussions on Reddit? We are able to do so by confirmatory factor analysis, since CFA allows the researcher to test a hypothesis about the relationship between a set of observed variables and underlying latent constructs which we cannot directly measure. In our case, latent constructs are three political theories, and observed variables is the probabilistic prevalence of rhetorical elements in user comments as calculated by the language model. The results of the confirmatory factor analysis show that indeed the political theories were able to describe user interactions on Reddit. We report the results for two models, the expansive one and the best model we were able to create. The expansive is the model we were able to create that includes the most rhetorical elements for each theory, while the best model was the model with the best fit. In the table, each value represents the magnitude to which a rhetorical element was positively or negatively associated to each discourse. With green, we represent associations that complied to the ones dictated by the political theories, while with red we show cases that the empirical evidence contrasted theoretical conceptions. With orange, we demonstrate cases that we were not able to include the rhetorical elements to the specific model. Overall, the results show that on Reddit, deliberative discourse was characterized by fact-related and structured arguments, civic discourse by collective rhetoric and empathetic and reciprocal language, while demagogic rhetoric by emotional language and unsupported arguments. Our second research question is whether different reaction mechanisms, upvotes, downvotes, or no votes, were associated with different rhetoric components of political discourse on Reddit. To answer this, we use fixed effects models and exploit a quasi-experimental design. Specifically, we model three specific interventions or changes in reaction mechanisms that took place over the years in subreddits, and their association to the prevalence of the political theories as measured by CFA. The three changes that subreddits faced was a change from having both up and down votes to only up votes, from having up votes to no votes, and from having up and down votes to having no votes. We also control for other associations, such as the different moderation rules that existed on the subreddits, while we ensure that the parallel trends assumption holds in all our models. Results indeed show that the existence of different reaction mechanisms in subreddits was associated with a different level of each of the political discourse we study. For example, we found that changing available reaction mechanisms from up and down votes to only up votes increased both civic and deliberative discourse, but led to a significant decrease of demagogic discourse. On the other hand, changing from only up votes to no votes decreased civic and deliberative discourse, while it increased demagogic discourse. The same effect was found when we studied the change of up and down votes to no votes, with civic and deliberative discourse decreasing again, while demagogic discourse increasing. Overall, we found that the existence of reaction mechanisms led to a higher level of deliberation and civic discourse, while the absence of voting led to more demagogic discourse. Our study has following theoretical and design implications. First, the study serves as a proof of concept on how to measure political communication from the lens of political theories, but also as a proof of concept on how to evaluate existing political theories when studying political communication. Furthermore, the fact that we found associations between different reaction mechanisms and the type of political discourse users are engaging in should be taken seriously into consideration by researchers and practitioners in order to understand and design platforms that contribute to healthy and democratic political environments.